thing. It is June 18th, 2025. And should we give dolphins the right to vote, or should we go to war with them? This is Inverted World Live. Welcome back to the program, everybody. This is Inverted World Live. I'm your host, Shane Cashman. We are glad you are here. This is a call-in show. Our phone lines are open. The link to call in is pinned in the chat below, whether you're watching on Rumble or YouTube. You can give us a call. It's audio only. And if you've got a weird story you can't explain, you've had some strange encounter, UFOs, Bigfoot, werewolves, we've had one of those, mind control, abductions, or if you've got some other idea about something we've talked about, or you've heard someone else talk about on the show, a caller, call us. Let us know what you're thinking. We also accept all skepticism, which you probably already know if you've listened to the show already. But we're stoked to get to your calls today. We'll get to them about 30 minutes or so, and we'll be here till midnight. But before that, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host. This is Brandon.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. And a special shout out tonight to Gordy Junt and Nugo Hava. Hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves tonight at the old San Remo Cafe. Let's get weird.
That sounded like code. Sounded like you just sent out a secret message. I like it. Shout out to those guys. Did you say Junt?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
The old Junt.
Man, so I hope everyone's doing well. Hope you all had a good day. I've been fiending to talk about whale psychiatry. I talked about it last week a bit when the president on Joe Rogan last year said he wanted to be a whale psychiatrist one day for the experiments that were going on in the oceans and the weird, I guess it was sonar stuff or windmills that were upsetting the whales. And here we are on June 18th with whale news. I mean, it just fell out of the sky or jumped out of the ocean, however you want to look at it. But I'm stoked about this because I think ocean is real space. And before we get into this article about whales, I want to give a shout out to everyone who's just now joining us, leaving IRL and coming over here. We are stoked to have you. We are going to get into whales, how they might help us learn to talk to aliens, according to a report that came out recently. And we're going to talk about dolphins being experimented on with basically USAID money from the 60s. That's a strange story if you haven't heard it yet, but there's a few of those running around, even a new one. But thank you guys for joining us. We're stoked. And again, for those who are just joining us, this is a call-in show. We're going to talk about some stuff for like 20, 30 minutes, and then our phone lines are open. We'll get to your calls. You got a weird story. We want to hear about it. So this story is from Gizmodo. It's from last week, and it's an interesting one. The title is about whale bubbles and how they can teach us, perhaps, to speak to aliens. Researchers, the article says, have decided that a potentially good way to prepare for future contact with extraterrestrial beings is by studying whale bubbles. Let's see what this means. No, it's not a joke. The article says, researchers from the SETI Institute, the University of California, UC Davis, and several partner institutions recently published a paper describing humpback whales blowing bubble rings during friendly interactions with humans. While this might not seem like a shocking action, the behavior provides insight into non-human intelligence. I think whales might be smarter than us, to be honest. Anyway, with important implications, it says, for our ongoing search for alien life. And here we have a quote. Because of current limitations on technology, an important assumption of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence is that extraterrestrial intelligence and life will be interested in making contact and so target human receivers, Lawrence Doyle of the SETI Institute said. And he is a co-author of this study, which was published last month in the Journal of Marine Mammal Science. It goes on to say, this important assumption is certainly supported by the independent evolution of curious behavior in humpback whales. So, ladies and gentlemen, Trump has fulfilled the promise of whale psychiatry. We are getting closer and closer to really understanding the psychology of whales, which, they're aliens, like the octopi out there and all the strange things. Remember, we pulled up the anglerfish and the oarfish 2 weeks ago.
If anything was going to be an alien, that thing would definitely have my vote.
Right? I think so. These things are bizarre. While researchers had previously documented humpback whales creating bubble nets to capture prey, which there's a link there for those who are reading along, and it's worth looking into that, and using bubbles to vie for female whales, as one whale might do, the study examines the cetaceans blowing bubble rings during amicable interactions with humans. Doyle and his colleagues studied 12 bubble ring events involving 11 whales and 39 rings. Kind of seems like a small sample test to me. But anyway, behaviors that may represent playfulness or an attempt at communication. Jody Frediani, a co-lead author of the study and marine wildlife photographer affiliated with UC Davis, explained that humpback whales frequently interact with boats and even swimmers in a curious, friendly way. And we've seen that. We've seen multiple videos of that. But how do they deal with it? How are they going to connect us to aliens? I don't know. Humpback whales live in complex societies, are acoustically diverse, use bubble tools, and assist other species being harassed by predators. You know what all this makes me think of is, do you ever listen to Incubus?
I was just going to say the warmth. Yeah.
Great song.
Boom.
Great song. That's awesome. I wish we could play that right now if it wouldn't nuke this episode.
Yeah, it totally would
nuke
it.
After the show tonight, if you haven't listened to The Warmth by Incubus, what's that on? Make Yourself?
Yeah.
It has whale song in it, and it's amazing. Oddly enough, we talked about whale songs last night as well, because I said it was whale songs were included on the Golden Voyager record that they shot into space, which will come full circle as we go through some of these whale and dolphin stories that are in the news. Now, akin to a candidate signal from extraterrestrial life, we show they are blowing bubble rings in our direction in an apparent attempt to playfully interact, observe our response, and or engage in some form of communication. So they're blowing bubbles, and that's how they talk to us. It kind of also reminds me of the way the aliens spoke in, what was it? Oh, what was the Amy Adams movie? Signs or something? Not Signs.
No, the something.
Yeah.
The Arrival or something like that.
Maybe Arrival.
I can't
Whatever
remember.
movie that was, that's a great movie. That is a really, really good movie. And it has they make the rings to talk. Maybe those scientists were inspired by that movie. I'll continue reading. From Gizmodo. Chances are that, should we ever establish contact with extraterrestrials, their form of communication won't be what we expect. You don't say. By analyzing intelligent non-human communication systems, such as whales blowing bubbles while engaging with boats and people, scientists can broaden their understanding of unfamiliar forms of communication and refine what we should look for in our search for life beyond Earth. I gotta say, that is one of the most bizarre sentences I've ever read.
That's one of the most bizarre sentences I've ever heard.
It went all over the place, but we'll continue. The goal is to be better prepared for it if contact occurs. Simply put, whale bubbles can be an analog for an alien language. So you see, they are studying whales and other sea life to determine how we might be able to communicate with extraterrestrials should they ever show up. You know, we were talking about this last night because we were talking about the boogosphere and the scientists who were studying it. I believe they were in Germany. They were deciphering the strange code on those spheres. Now, I personally think that those might be a hoax, but I'm open to anything. Anything's possible. They do look weird, and there's weird stories surrounding it, but there's a lot of mystery and not a lot of hard fact yet.
Yeah, somebody actually last night said that the inscriptions on them looked like they were jankily hand-carved by a human, and I actually, thinking back to that, kind of agree with them.
Like, imagine you go through all the trouble of making this awesome sphere to come down to Earth. and you just like scratched in some graffiti,
Yeah.
I imagine I'd do a much better job.
Well, the crescent
putting
moon
it
thing
in.
too. I'm just like, come on.
I know. A
You
little
know?
on the
Like,
nose.
What can we put on there that's just like really spacey and mysterious?
Yeah, I don't really buy it. But we have clearly been trying to communicate with other life forms for a very long time. Again, last night we're talking about the Voyager satellite. They did their own little language to have an extraterrestrial decode should they come across that satellite, which was in the news recently again because it allegedly found some new barrier at the edge of our universe. Take that with a grain of salt. Who knows? But let's go now deeper into the dolphin world, because this is another one, also from this year, just in May, from technoscience.net. It's been in a bunch of places recently, but I like this one. So let's see. Dolphins, it says. These marine mammals known for their intelligence and sociability might well hold the key to understanding how to communicate with extraterrestrial intelligences. So we are obsessed with whales and dolphins teaching us how to speak to other life forms that may or may not exist. But if you ask me, these are the aliens. These are the aliens. Anyway, a recent study focuses on their whistles, which appear to function like words. The team led by Layla Saig from the dude. One day I'll do a whole jump cut of me just pronouncing scientists' names.
I started. That was so good.
Right?
Oh
At some point, I will make that because it will be. I mutilate almost every scientist's name on this show, so I'm sure Layla's watching, and I apologize. But she is from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and she won the Kohler Doolittle Challenge Prize, which seems really official. Anytime I see the word Doolittle, I love it. It's for her research on interspecies communication. Their study concentrates on bottlenose dolphins in Sarasota, Florida, and their non-signature whistles. These whistles, which account for about half of the vocalizations of the studied dolphins, differ from the better-known signature whistles. The team uses suction cup hydrophones to record these sounds, hoping to decipher their meaning through deep learning. It sounds like training AI. That's interesting. Another name, people. Do you see this name? Eric Kirschenbaum.
Boom. Nailed it.
I think I nailed it. From the University of Cambridge, sees a parallel between the research and the search for extraterrestrial signals. He emphasizes the importance of studying animal communication to prepare for receiving messages from beyond. And here we go again. Bill Diamond, president of the SETI Institute, Search for Extraterrestrial Life, explains that the study of non-human communications, such as that of humpback whales, is increasingly interesting to astrobiology researchers. And you will see in our next story, this is not new. This is far from new, people. This is something we've been doing for decades, and it gets way worse. And some of you people out there might know where this is heading when we go back in time to the 60s. But I'll continue with this one. These animals transmit sophisticated information far beyond simple reproductive or danger signals. The central question is whether there are universal mathematical rules governing information and transmission. The discovery of such rules could not only help identify intelligent extraterrestrial signals, but also translate them. This interdisciplinary approach, combining biology, linguistics, and astronomy, opens new perspectives in understanding communication, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial. Researchers propose creating a collaborative database to share their findings. So here we are. We have whale bubbles. We've got dolphin whistles trying to teach us how to speak to things we don't yet know exist, but are hoping do exist. And this strange marriage between marine biology and astrobiology, or NASA, to be more specific, because let's just do it. Let's go to the Guardian. You guys know where this is going? I'm sure some of you know where this is going. You know this is going to the scientists in Florida giving dolphins acid experiments. The Dolphin Who Loved Me, the NASA-funded project that went wrong. Now, it went way more than wrong. I won't read this whole thing, because I'll sum it up, but let's just give you a little bit. And are you familiar with this story?
Did you say giving the dolphins LSD?
This is the least of the problems of this
What
story.
could possibly go wrong with feeding a dolphin some LSD?
You have no idea. In the 1960s, Margaret Lovat, was part of a NASA-funded project to communicate with dolphins. Soon, she was living with Peter, 24 hours a day, in a converted house. Margaret was living with a dolphin for 24 hours a day.
The dolphin's name was Peter?
It was Peter.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I believe there was another one named Pamela, which we should meet soon.
I love this story already.
Like most children, the article says, Margaret Howell Lovat grew up with stories of talking animals. There was this book that my mother gave to me called Miss Kelly, she remembers with a twinkle in her eye. And real quick, before I go any further, this is from June 8th, 2014. It was a story about a cat, she says, who could talk and understand humans, and it just stuck with me that maybe there is this possibility. Unlike most children, Lovat didn't leave these tales of talking animals behind her as she grew up. In her early 20s, living on the Caribbean island of St. Thomas, they took on a new significance. During Christmas 1963, her brother-in-law mentioned a secret laboratory at the eastern end of the island where they were working with dolphins. She decided to pay the lab a visit early the following year. I was curious, she recalls. I drove out there, down a muddy hill, and at the bottom was a cliff with a big white building. She was met by a tall man with tousled hair, wearing an open shirt and smoking a cigarette. His name was Gregory Bateson, a great intellectual of the 20th century and the director of the lab. Why did you come here? He asked Lovat. Well, I heard you had dolphins, she replied, and I thought I'd come and see if there was anything I could do or any way I could help. So we'll let you guys read, because this is a pretty long article. She gets a job at this place. She does not get paid for this job.
Is that still considered a job?
It's a good question. Good question.
We'll go with it.
She was working 24 hours with these dolphins. That they were the goal with the dolphins was to train them to speak English. That was the goal with these people. I think the one researcher's name was John Lilly, who was running it underneath Bateson, and so that was her job, to get them to learn to speak English.
Pro bono.
Pro bono. That, you know what? That's an interesting segue into this next part of the story. The word bono. She realized that Peter had a lot of sexual tension being built up, and I'm going to try to clean this up for the listeners. But she decided to alleviate some of that pressure with her hands, and this started a relationship.
The old Red Rocket episode.
Between
I got you. Peter
the dolphin and Margaret. Now, things intensified, if you could imagine things intensifying in such an affair, when the scientist Lily was like, it's not enough what we're doing. We also need to give them acid. And this is in 1966, I believe, it was happening, or maybe a little 63 or 64. So they're dosing these dolphins with acid, hoping it would help them learn to speak English more. And I don't know if it did help a bit. It might have helped a little bit. But eventually, if you can imagine, it did lose funding because it wasn't really going anywhere. But our government is more willing to take your taxpayer money and fund sexual affairs with LSD-dosed dolphins in Florida than actually help improve your life.
Dolphins getting old fashions.
Old fashions.
On your dime.
Your grandparents paid for that. This is a real thing. Yeah, Dr. John Lilly, which is funny to me because as far as I can tell, I did a little digging into this. There's no relation between him and the company Eli Lilly that just so happened to make all the acid for the government. In those days when they were doing MK Ultra, they were MK Ultraing these dolphins, more or less. So didn't go well, and there's a little discrepancy as to how it ended with Peter. Some people will tell you Peter actually ended up taking his life as a dolphin after he was separated from Margaret. Like they had like a real thing going on. I mean, by real, I'm putting that in quotes, but they were a thing, a thing. And the story goes, depending on who you hear it from, that he sunk to the bottom and chose not to come up for any more air and died. Now, the counter to that is that they moved him to a really bad facility, and his like everything about him just started to break down. His mental abilities, the English speaking, and his health deteriorated.
Did anyone consider for a minute that this dolphin missed the party life of old fashions and LSD that were introduced upon it? And maybe that's why, one, it went into a steep depression.
Yeah.
Two, it ended up killing itself. I mean, these are like human characteristics we're talking about here.
Yeah.
This is like literally the bottom of the bottle.
Yeah.
And that's really like screwed up.
Yeah, and this was in part a NASA funded project. To bring it back to the whole we're going to learn to talk to aliens thing. I don't think they were explicitly saying that, at least as far as we know, but NASA has been interested in learning how these mammals speak or communicate as they're doing their research into extraterrestrial life. The other weird thing that I find, I want to read this quote from her really quick because this is just interesting. Because she was 97 as she was doing this interview in 2014 with The Guardian, and she still remembers. It says the day very clearly. I came in at the top of the operating theater and heard John, Lily talking, and the dolphins would go wah 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 like John, and then Alice, his assistant, would reply in a high tone of voice, and the dolphin would imitate her voice. I went down to where they were operating and told them that this was going on, and they were quite startled. So she's talking about they're mimicking, right? Which could be like, okay, like parrots mimic. Just because they're mimicking a human voice doesn't mean they're actually communicating. But I actually do think dolphins are incredibly smart. So that went on for a while, and that was wild. Shut down, didn't work. Peter had untimely demise. It is very sad, and it's like abuse, I think. Margaret abused this dolphin. Am I wrong in saying that? Is this dolphin abuse?
Rip Pete. R.I.P.
Horrible. The other strange thing, just to tie all this together with MK Ultra, with acid, with secret government projects, because they didn't know about this publicly, I believe, until the 70s when it was published in, of all places, Hustler magazine. Strange. But the thing I think is interesting, it's not directly tied to this story, but in a weird abstract way, the Manson murders, right? We talk about them a lot. We talk about Charles Manson, his connection to MK Ultra, the LSD they were using, brain control, mind control, brainwashing, assassins being created by the government, these super soldiers hopped up on LSD. Roman Polanski was Sharon Tate's husband. I'm sure you know this. On the day she was murdered by the Manson family, he was in England working on pre-production for a movie called Day of the Dolphin, which was about the government creating assassin dolphins. I just think that is so bizarre that of all the things for him to be working on, he's working on that at a time when our government was literally creating dolphin super soldiers in labs in Florida. Weird. Isn't that weird? This is a weird, weird world, people. It is a strange, inverted world. But that's what we got going on with dolphins. So if you guys are out there talking to dolphins, give us a call. Our phone lines are open. We're going to be here till midnight. We want to hear from you. We want to take your calls. Again, for those who didn't hear, the link to call in is pinned in the chat. You can call in. It's audio only. Remember to unmute yourself and to lower the volume of the stream in the background. And we'll talk anything. It doesn't have to be dolphin related, although that would be interesting. Hopefully it's not a story like Margaret's, because I think that's crazy. But we've heard from a ton of awesome callers the past few weeks, and we are stoked on it. So again, we'll be here taking your calls. If there's anybody lined up, we will do that. And before we get to your first caller, just please like, subscribe, share the channel. The show has been growing in a crazy way that we are very grateful for. You know, Alex is still a part of the team. She's behind the scenes, but like she's, you know, I'm congratulating her. I'm congratulating Brandon. Like they've been killing it, and that's all thanks to you guys. Like really tuning in, calling, sharing, liking, subscribing. We are incredibly grateful. So it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, let's go to some calls. Let's do it.
All right.
I think I got all my Dolphin stuff out of my system. Poor Peter. You know, I got to look at what happened to Pamela. I don't know what happened to Pamela Dolphin, but maybe
Pamela Dolphin?
There was the other Dolphin that Margaret didn't give as much love to. As far as I know.
Okay.
I don't know what John Lilly was doing.
We're getting out of Dolphin land now. We're going to go to Gabriel land. I got 2 Gabriels in chat right now. This better not be the same person.
Interesting.
Gabriel, you are on Inverted World Live. What is up?
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all good.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. What's up?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, things are going super well. Just wanted to say howdy, and I know you guys were talking about dolphins there, but I've been tuning in the past couple of weeks and been hearing people's stories about meeting entities in dreams, and I thought I would dig out a journal where I cataloged an extremely strange dream I had back in 2020, and you know, provenance of dreams and all that.
Yep. But awesome.
But would you mind if I read it over to you guys and
please
see what you think?
Yep, yeah. The floor is yours.
Awesome, perfect. So I'll just keep it kind of verbatim, and I apologize for the poor grammar and flowery language.
Oh, good.
So I met 2 angels in a dream. The first one was the one I spoke to. I had a decently long talk with her, but the only thing I remember her, in quotation marks, saying is that I had an interesting point of view on something. If I think really hard on what it was, it might have been that I have this theory that maybe man is alone in the universe and that we're meant to be the progenitors. After all, God did tell Abraham, your descendants shall be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. To describe the angels is weird. Both wore hoods, but they didn't really obfuscate anything. On the first angel, she was like a cross between a marble statue and a twisted metal sculpture with wings of orange light that didn't flap but kept her aloft. Both were entirely made from metal of some sort. The other one was a hulking being with a long face that walked much like a gorilla. It followed me on a task I was made to do or to help me overcome something. A weird detail is that when moving, they would sometimes turn into orange wisps. Overall, strange dream. Maybe I'll run into them again sometime.
Whoa. That's good. Good details. I imagine you woke up and just wrote that right away.
Yeah. It's so I wrote the time down. It was 2 a.m. So I kind of tried to capture it before everything was lost to me. You know how dreams go.
Yep. What was your feeling about angels beforehand? Is this something you believe in angels before, or is this a strange thing for you to dream about?
You know, kind of thinking back to that time specifically, I was on this kind of tear that, you know, angels are more like a purely spiritual being, and that they don't, you know, because we can't actively perceive them, they might as well not exist, if that makes sense.
Right. Like not exist in a way we can understand.
Yes. Yeah.
Like in another realm, but here they are in your dream. Can you say what they sounded like? Like, did they have a voice, or was it telepathic?
I did make like a crude doodle of what I thought the first angel looked like. I don't know if there's an Inverted World Instagram, but I could probably send it through there if you were interested.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say today. I got to figure that out. Right now, the best way is on Twitter. I think that's the best way for now.
X is basically the best way.
Yeah.
We can do anything off YouTube too.
I have to set something up. That's a proper place to send these things so we can pull them up. Since we can't do that, you want to try giving us your best description, or if it's any different than what you already said?
Yeah, no, it was kind of along those lines. There's a hood, and then one side had that humanoid marble statue looking face, but the eye on that side was completely hollow, and then the twisted metal side kind of bifurcated down the middle, was filled with like this orange light.
And you said they were wearing hoods, but it didn't like hide their face.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. And this idea of man being alone in the universe, was that an idea you had? I guess you had already?
Yeah, that's kind of my take on everything. I think, with habitable worlds being such a rare commodity in the universe, I don't think I don't think an alien species would stand by unless it were a Star Trek Federation situation where it's like, oh yeah, we let them be until they reach a certain technological point.
Right.
I think our world is one of a few that are habitable. So why wouldn't you just move in?
And what's your take on aliens? Like, is that basically it? There might be something that's watching but waiting to visit, or
Uh,
nothing?
no, I'm more in the camp that that would fit into more of the uh, angels, demons, disembodied spirits category.
Hmm.
Uh, so like the Earthbound or spirits of fallen angels and some such.
Right. Right. And what do you make of all the UFO talk? We do a lot of that on this show. We share these images. What's your take on those things?
It's kind of uh, I have my thought on what would be cool, but I wouldn't be utterly disappointed if there were aliens. I'd just be like, oh, take it in stride.
Right.
Um, but as for them, you know, totally conceivable. It's just it doesn't make a lot of sense that they wouldn't just be doing whatever they wanted.
Right. Or maybe here already. We just don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, and how did you feel about this dream? Like, did you feel like you actually interacted with angels, or it was just another weird dream? Like, how did you walk away from this?
I thought it was weird and kind of ironic that I would be on like I think on that day I was thinking, I was going like I had kind of reached that point where it's like, no, I think we're really just alone and we're the ones meant to uh, be the fill the universe, and kind of pioneer all that, and everything will descend from us.
Right.
And I thought it was more interesting that it was like, oh, that's the entities were like, oh yeah, that's an interesting take.
Run with
Uh,
it. Yeah. Yeah. And like, so you're then of the mind that we will populate other planets, kind of like this idea of colonizing Mars, and that what might be Martian is actually us.
yeah, exactly. Like that's part of God's promise that that's the universe is ours for the taking.
How do you, like, do you read the Bible?
Yeah, yeah. Christian, non-denominational.
How do you measure the idea of going to space and doing that kind of thing with the idea of Tower of Babel? For me, in my mind, they seem like they're very similar. Like, it's almost like they were trying to reach a place they shouldn't go, like heaven, or space.
This is more personal take than having thought about that for a long time,
Hmm.
but um, the hopeful part of me is that the the things given to man are the things that God has blessed man with, and it's our job to do either good or evil with them.
Right.
And
Right.
the Babel is a situation where it was an outright challenge to God, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't like it. They're definitely
Yeah,
challenging him. And yeah, with what you're saying, it's kind of like how we talk about AI to a degree too. You could use, if you have ethics behind it, it can be great. But if there's bad motives behind it, then that's not so great.
exactly. Yeah, right on the money.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you calling in and sharing that with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry to stutter and everything, but
Oh,
it was
no.
fun
You
with you
did,
guys.
You're good. Shane does it all the time.
yeah, dude, have you heard me talk? Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Take it easy.
Yeah, take it easy.
Amazing. Amazing. So again, for those who are just now joining us, we got our phone lines open. We're here till midnight. Our link to call in is pinned in the chat below on Rumble and YouTube. You got a weird story you want to share with us, like dreams, like the last caller, or an encounter you've had. Someone the other day told us about this giant craft they saw casting a shadow in this field. Really wild stuff. We've talked about cryptids being seen. Last night we had a story that was wild about a woman hitting a Bigfoot in California, which is a pretty wild story. A lot of people felt a lot of different ways about it, but I want to believe. I want to believe.
We actually had a follow up from a lot of people through the chats about that orb situation.
Yeah.
And other people with ring cams and everything confirmed that they believe that was either a spider or a spider's web. I think it's possible that it was a spider because I did kind of see those three kind of things moving to the side.
The thing at the top of it,
maybe that's just what it looks like with the illumination from the camera light.
Yep.
So possible debunk on that one. Thanks for all the comments on that, guys.
Or maybe it was a cryptid spider.
Cryptid spider.
Yeah, like a weird spider we just don't know about yet. That glows. I'll have to do a little more research on my cryptid spiders.
It sounds Peter Parker-ish.
Yeah, exactly. That's real. That's based on a true story. That's something NASA created in a lab in Florida.
Man.
Let's go to another caller.
Sure. All right. So I want to bring on. Where is it? This is Shane Beard 4.
Oh boy.
So let's see what this is about.
Hello.
You're on Inverted World Live. Please unmute. Yeah, I also debunked my own theory on that. It doesn't automatically mute you. I think people actually are muting themselves ahead of time, and then just so that they don't,
Yep.
Hello, are you there?
Shane Beard 4. Are you there?
Maybe it's an alien and we need to get a dolphin or a whale in here.
That'd be cool.
No, it didn't work. All right, we're going to come back. Let's now go to... Oh, there is an unknown caller in here.
That sounds good.
Unknown caller. Let's do this.
Yeah, guys, we never know what we're getting into. It's chaos. It's a good chaos up here.
I invite the chaos, I do.
Yeah.
But only when the chaos successfully joins after I admit them. What is happening?
Sometimes it's muted chaos.
Hello, you are on Inverted World Live.
Hello. Are you there? Ghost caller.
This is a non-muted, non-responsive.
Ooh.
So this is another first
I feel like
for me.
It's like collecting something, or at some point a horrible sound's going to come through.
Is anyone there?
Hello, unknown.
All right, 2 no-shows. We're off to a great start. Let's put this back. All right.
Spooky.
So next up, we have yet another Gabriel. This is Gabriel Rodriguez.
Maybe. We'll see.
Possibly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome to the show.
Perfect.
What's going on, man?
You're our second Gabe tonight, man.
That's right.
I've got a few paranormal experiences if you'd like to hear about them.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
So I kind of grew up with like my family being rather superstitious, and in my opinion, for good reason, about like angels and demons and spirits and whatnot. My family is like very, I wouldn't say like very, very religious, but very like in tune with spirituality and whatnot, with like my siblings and whatnot as they grew up like astral projecting and things, which my parents told me stories about that, and so far as I've heard, I've never experienced anything with that specifically, but I did see what I would say are like spirits that have stuck around, starting when I was like probably like 6 or 7 years old. For reference, I'm in my mid-20s.
Okay.
So the first one I had, my grandmother, my great grandmother, she passed away at 103.
Wow.
In my grandmother's house. So when she passed away, the whole family was there. And since then, the house is no longer in the family, but when I would go back to visit that house, I would always feel strange, like there was someone there that wasn't physically present. And what kind of confirmed that for me was probably 6 or 8 months after that, after her passing, it was the summer following. I had gone to visit my grandmother, and I was sleeping on the couch in like the living room because it was like a 2-bedroom house, so there wasn't a lot of space to sleep. So us kids would sleep on the couch or with one of our parents in the bedroom. But I was sleeping on the couch, and I had woken up in the middle of the night. It was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and for some reason I felt like something was watching me.
Hmm.
And my grandmother would talk in her sleep, so I was hearing her talk in her sleep from across the house,
Mhm.
which creeped me out. So me being,
Hmm.
6, 7 years old, I'm like, oh, this is weird. I don't like this.
Huh.
I'm listening to someone talk in their sleep and I feel like I'm being watched. So I do that thing where, as a kid, you cover your head with a blanket and you shut your eyes real tight and hope it just everything goes quiet and you fall back asleep.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I would like peer out from under the blanket, every few minutes just to see if somebody was there. The talking and the sleep had stopped. And after 2 or 3 times of doing this, um, I pulled the blanket down in front of my eyes, and standing in front of me, like staring down at me, was this black shadowy figure. It was very like skinny, which I can only assume was the spirit of my great grandmother who had not decided to leave the house yet.
Hmm.
And so that was the first experience that I had, what I had witnessed with my own eyes. And I'd heard experiences from other members in my family where, like the clock on the wall would start chiming if you mentioned my great grandmother by name,
Wow.
while certain people were in the house.
Hmm.
Because my uncle, she did not like one of my uncles because he was a like repeat offender for drug addiction and whatnot. So
Mm.
she had a very big keep him out of the house. And so the few times that he came back to visit, when he would mention my great grandmother's name, the clock on the wall would start chiming like
Oh.
very, very rapidly.
Whoa. That's wild.
Um,
That's creepy.
yeah. Probably the second experience I had, would be I'd probably 13, 14 at the time when it first started happening. There was, um, and to give you reference for where this was at, I don't know if you know where Powder Springs, Georgia is.
I don't.
Uh,
Where in Georgia is that?
uh, it's probably 35 to 40 minutes southwest of Kennesaw Mountain,
Okay. I'm not sure where that is. Is that like
West Georgia.
West Georgia? Okay.
Like 30 minutes west of Atlanta, if
Okay.
that's
Okay.
Yep.
more of a landmark. Um, there was an estate sale in one of the historic houses in that town where one of the final members of the family that owned the house had passed away, and they were selling off a lot of his old stuff. Well, my sister had gone and bought the trunk of the person who owned the house. Now, this guy was a soldier from like World War II or Vietnam,
Hmm.
and he still had his like trunk, his footlocker, from when he was in service. And she bought it and she moved it into our house. And when that trunk moved into the house, uh, as I would walk around the house, different spots, um, I would start seeing people or like a person out of the corner of my eye. But when I turned to look, they're never there. So if I was like in my bedroom, I would see someone standing out in the hallway out of the corner of my eye. But I would look there and there'd be nobody there.
Hmm.
If I was walking through the upstairs hallway, I would see someone standing at the bottom of the stairs looking up at me, but they were never there when I turned to look at them.
Hmm.
If I would go into my parents' bedroom, which they had a segmented master bedroom, so there was like a main sitting area, and then there was like a small arch, and then in the second area was their bedroom, was where the bed and stuff was. I would be back by their bed, and I would see someone sitting in my father's chair. But if I turned to look at them directly, they were never there. And if I was in their bathroom, I would see someone peering through the doorway, but they were never there. And this only stopped happening once my sister got rid of the trunk because she said she got tired of looking at it because it made her feel uneasy.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Um,
I've heard similar stories like that. Actually, with trunks from soldiers, in Georgia, of all places.
Georgia's a special place. I'll say that.
I mean, I think it's got a lot of issues going on clearly because what, you know, I think there's a trauma to the land that happened when the March to the Sea happened.
Oh, for sure.
And when they burnt everything down, and there was also like marauders that were taking advantage of that. So like they weren't even associated with Sherman, but they were like, oh, we could just burn down and rob this stuff too, rape and pillage. So like that I think had a profound effect. And like, you know, everywhere's got some weird trauma throughout human history. But Georgia just had like a very weird, horrible. Like I think of Sherman as like an early atom bomb that they just set loose on Georgia with what they did, and like that stuff. Your family dates back through Georgia for a while.
I don't know that my family dates back through Georgia because my family is like we're segmented through different parts of history as like migrants. So
Okay.
on one side of my family, we're like from the Caribbean, and the other side of my family is from the UK.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But half of the family that's from the UK is also from the States prior to um in like the way that there were people already here, and then other half of the family came from the UK once the people were already here. So
Right.
they kind of commingled.
Something I noticed in Georgia that I haven't noticed anywhere. It definitely doesn't happen in New York, and I don't think it happens in California to this degree, or like any other place really. Is I would talk to a lot of families that could trace back their family had been in that town since before Georgia was Georgia, and so they had these stories going through their family that made it feel like the Civil War was yesterday, or the Revolution was yesterday, you know. And like there was an old lady in this town. She must have been 90 or something, but she had a memory of a very old man when she was like 4 who was in the Civil War, and they just happened to cross paths right at this time when he was about to die, and she just got here. So she has like stories she heard. You know, I don't think she remembers them that well, but it's just crazy to think about with Georgia, and I think that also affects that. You know, with all these people who've lived there that long, all the things they went through, because some of the bloodiest battles of the Revolution happened in Georgia as well, that people forget about. Like really wild. Like I think the Mel Gibson's The Patriot, is that the movie?
I believe so.
Tim always says he loves that movie, but like I think that's based on some of the battles that happened in Georgia. But yeah, I that's all to say, like Georgia's a very interesting. I love Georgia, and you know, Savannah has its issues as a college town, but I love that little city too.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but Stone Mountain is like almost entirely composed of granite. It's like the
Yes.
largest exposed mass of granite on the entire planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are some people who say that granite as a rock is like very good at holding on to like certain spiritual energies and whatnot, and I think that may have something to do with it.
I think so. I mean, people talk about stone tape theory and the idea of like energy being passed into inanimate objects like stone, or even smaller things like parts of a house. But I think there's something to that. Like I do think like a battlefield has something to it. Now I do always say like we all go to these battlefields and we bring that feeling of the history to it, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish from like the things we know about this place, and distinguish that from what might be like traumatized like battlefields. But yeah, man, every time I'm in Georgia, it's a very different feeling in that state.
For sure.
Um,
I've got one more story if
yeah.
you'd like to hear it.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So this was 4 years ago. The grandmother whose house I saw my great grandmother in after she had passed away. Um, my this is so 4 years ago, 2021. My grandmother was on hospice care because unfortunately she had stage 4 cancer.
Mm,
And I was present to sort of watch the decline of that, unfortunately.
mm, that's terrible.
Um, but uh, I I and my mother and my older brother were the three people that took care of her on a regular basis to make sure she was well and eating and whatnot up until she passed away. So uh, safe to say I was very, very close with my grandmother towards the end.
Mm,
Um, but so I came home from work uh, really, really late because at the time I was working like third shift on the job. So I would going to work at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and come home at 12. So by the time I was getting home, it was 1 o'clock, 1:30. Um, and I got home and I got ready for bed, and it seemed like as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was like completely knocked out. Well, sort of in the same vein as the last guy, I had like a dream sort of experience that I can only describe as I walked the steps to heaven and
Hmm.
delivered my grandmother there.
Whoa.
Um, so I put my head down on the pillow, was out, and then I just had this strange like dream, like very very vivid. Like I was just walking down this. It wasn't really anything. It was just like being in a space where everything around me was like pure white. And I was walking and carrying my grandmother in the same way that I would carry her from her bed to the couch so she could watch TV and whatnot,
Mm.
in like a bridal carry sort of fashion.
Right.
Um, and so I was walking, and it felt like forever. I mean, it got to the point where my legs started to feel a little bit fatigued, and my arms were growing tired as I carried her on. Um, and eventually I got to this place, and I mean, the only I don't know what it looked like because I don't really remember this part so much. I just remember feeling this strong feeling of just awestruck and like profound beauty that was surrounding me. And she wasn't in my arms anymore. And I looked around because I was kind of like, well, where'd she go? And the only thing that I can recall hearing at this time was, um, she's at peace now. It's not your time. Return home.
Hmm.
And then I woke up. And like right as I woke up, my mother was screaming because she'd gone downstairs and found my grandmother deceased.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a very surreal, like profound religious experience for me.
Wow. Yeah. Horrible, but also strangely beautiful that you had that experience. That is insane. It's weird. I lost my grandma to cancer in 2021 as well. We were also very close. It's a horrible, horrible thing to go through, especially when like you're close and you're taking care of them, which what we were doing as well. Uh, it's horrible, but that is a profound experience.
It certainly kicked my butt in gear and was like, yeah, I need to start reading up on the scriptures and go back to church.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's amazing. How many do we have a lot of callers lined up? So I wanted to ask a few questions. If
I mean, yeah, we got.
okay,
a few,
I just
but,
have like
I
I just
mean,
want to ask a few questions. Just
yeah, we
going
got plenty
Sure,
of
go
time.
going back to the beginning. When you say your family had reason to be superstitious, why do you think that is?
Growing up, uh, with my mom's side of the family, like they were always seeing things that couldn't really be explained by like ordinary explanation.
Hmm.
Especially like they moved all around the states. My mom's side did growing up, so she's the youngest of seven.
Okay.
So she's got uh five older brothers and one older sister. So they all grew up in different parts of the country, as well as like a couple of my uncles are from the UK before coming to the United States.
Hmm.
So um, when my oldest uncle on her side was 19, he unfortunately was killed in a car accident. Um, and uh, every night for like 3 or 4 weeks after he passed away, my mother would go and sit in his bedroom and talk to him, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
In the way that my grandmother described as if he was sitting there on the bed next to her.
Hmm.
And my grandmother, she would only ever dream in black and white. Well, when he passed away, she started dreaming in color of him talking to my mother.
Well, that's an interesting detail. I never heard that before.
Yeah. Similarly, like my grandmother, the day my uncle passed away, she had a dream in color the night before about him getting into a car accident, which she then found out, and that's when she sort of clicked on like, hey, this is a thing that happens, and
Wow.
I need to take this seriously.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. And then when you say about your family having experiences with astral projection, what was that about? Like I know what astral
Uh,
projection is, but like was there just you said there was a few people doing that within your family?
yeah, so my I'm the youngest of four myself, and I've
Mhm.
got three older siblings, two older sisters and an older brother. My the pair in the middle, my brother and sister are twins, and when they were younger, my sister did not speak up until she was like 5 or 6, and my brother would speak for her. And the way that they did this was, as they were sleeping in the morning, um, my sister would supposedly tell my brother everything that he needed to tell my parents for the day. And then my brother, while he's projecting, would come and tell my parents that, and then my parents would wake up and be like, "Wait, who was just talking to us?" And they didn't realize that they were projecting until um, my mom got up early one morning because my brother had been getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning as like a 5 or 6 year old. She got up after he came to talk to my mother. And when she got up and walked across the house, leaving him in the bedroom with my father, she found my brother still sleeping in his bed.
Whoa, that's wild. That is wild. And you haven't had any actual projection experiences?
I haven't had any experiences where I project. I've only had experiences where I see things.
Right. And when you saw those things, those entities you were describing, did you ever try interacting with them, or did they interact with you other than being in your like area?
Um, I didn't start experimenting with that until I got older,
Hmm.
and most of those like experiments where I would try and like talk to whatever it was, I never got any luck with it.
What would you try?
I would just try talking to it,
Okay.
like telling it to like be more present or like show itself more clearly so
Hmm.
that I could actually like verify that it was there, but nothing ever happened.
Wow. Wow, man. Well, I really appreciate you calling in and sharing these stories. It was great, great stories, as sad as they are. But I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Have a good one.
Amazing. Um, so again, for those who have been tuning in, this is Inverted World Live. Our phone lines are open. We're here till midnight. You got a strange story, dreams, encounters with UFOs, cryptids, thoughts on like military programs. We started this show talking about NASA giving dolphins acid, and we started
And old
talking
fashions.
in old fashions and talking about trying to see if scientists can learn how to speak to aliens by deciphering dolphin whistles and also studying bubbles that humpback whales make. So, but we want to hear anything. Literally, we are here to hear anything you want to get off your chest or just want to hear anyone else's take on. We love it. So let's go to another caller.
Yep, and don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with everyone you know. We are going to go now back to the lines and bring in Pat.
Yeah, yeah. Did Unknown ever call back with the silence? Or have they appeared again?
Oh, they're still in there.
Oh, okay. Just silent.
Just grabbing some new people. Pat, you're on Inverted World Live. What's up?
Hey, I gotta unmute you. Hang on one second. Can you hear
Sure.
me?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, cool. Yeah, let me pull up my chair. Sorry, I was distracted.
No worries.
Oh, I can't believe this worked. I've never even used Zoom. It's my first time watching the show, and I've never used Zoom before. So,
Oh, wow. Awesome.
anyways, I just got a quick story for you. I'll give you the skeleton version of it because there's a lot of petals to this flower, so to speak, but I'll just give you the ones necessary for it to make sense.
All right, let's hear it.
So I moved to Louisiana a few years ago, and I got a buddy out here who's got a homestead, like 200 acres or whatever. I moved out here to help him work on it, and quickly ended up moving into the city. But anyways, so I got bed bugs in my apartment a few years ago.
Terrible.
So I decided to drive out to stay with my folks for a few weeks while my place was being fumigated. They live in San Diego, and when I got out there, my depression kicked in pretty bad. Um, and so I did something I'd never done before. I went on social media and made like a public prayer to Jesus to, I was kind of like in a bitchy, sorry, is this a no cursing show?
It's all good.
Okay, yeah, I was kind of in like a snarky mood or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, on social media, I prayed to Jesus to kill me in my sleep tonight, or if you don't have the balls to do that, then have at it again with another one of your mass shootings tomorrow. Just kind of like I was just in the worst of moods.
Right.
And so I wake up the next morning, and at one point during the day, my buddy calls me, the guy with the homestead out in Louisiana, and he says, "Dude, I just got spooked out, man. I was out mowing the lawn, and I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck, and I look up, and just on the edge of the wood line, I see this person standing there." And so I reached down. He lives out in the middle of nowhere. Like if you see someone, like you stop and talk to him, kind of vibe. Like
Yeah.
he lives so. So he sees this person about 100 meters away or whatever, reaches down to grab his pistol because he's, for whatever reason, got this really spooky feeling. He reaches down to grab his pistol, and when he looks back up, the person's gone. I don't know how close. I can't remember. Might have been 50 meters. Might have been 25. I don't know. But the person just vanished, and this was like that happened in like a split second. There's no way. It doesn't take you but like a fraction of a second to grab your pistol. He just carries it cross holster, so he has whatever. He just looked down for a split second and looked up, and he was gone. And he said, yeah, he was wearing sunglasses, a long sleeve blue shirt, and brown pants. And I'm like, dang, man, that's crazy. Well, stay frosty, stay strapped, and let me know if anything comes of it. And so I hung up the phone, and I looked down. I always wear sunglasses, and I'm wearing a long sleeve blue shirt and brown pants. And so then I was like, man, that's spooky as heck. And then the day after that, this is where it gets kind of dark and morbid. So just fair warning. There was a mass shooting on the highway that I took from Shreveport to San Diego was I-20, straight shot. Well, it changed to I-10 at one point, but so yeah, the day after that, there was a mass shooting on I-20, a road rage incident. Some dude just flipped out and started shooting. Seven people dead. You can look it up. Happened in, I think, 2019 or whatever, between Odessa and Midland. And yeah, and like I said, there's somebody, you could say, well, that's all just coincidences, but there's, like I said, there's many more petals to this flower where they can't all just be coincidences, so
what did you like, how did you interpret that as like a sign being like you've been spared because this is along your route, or like did it how did it affect you?
It's interesting, how this mosaic of existence presents itself. It's kind of, I don't know, to be honest, like I was feeling so bad when I freaking made that post, that like to see that the universe responded in some way. It's kind of dark to say because people freaking died, but it was like there was some sense of relief, like, well, at least somebody's listening.
Yeah, no, it's dark. It is dark. But I can understand like being in that state and that kind of sadness, and putting that out there. And then like, did anyone reach out to you afterwards who had seen that post being like, did you see this? Anything like that?
Wait, say, what's the question again? Sorry.
You said you made a public statement about like wanting to die in your sleep or a mass shooting. And after the mass shooting, did anyone who saw that post like reach out to you, or did anyone reach out at all?
No, not really. Because I mean, to be honest, like people, I've kind of like gained a reputation among my friends on social media as being like the 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 black humor, like morbid,
Mm-hmm.
is most morbid things you can think without like, well, without getting into, I'm an edge. What do they call them? Edge lords.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So people are used to me, posting like edgy
Right.
stuff. So
Right.
that's that. I guess that's part of it, and I take full responsibility for that.
And how was it when you went back to Louisiana?
Uh, it was I don't remember exactly how. Well, I mean, if I do you want, can I explain one more dimension to the story that where it kind of continues on, but it
Mm-hmm.
gets interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so when I went back to Louisiana, I went to go to the dry cleaners to pick up the one article of clothing that I had left behind. When I during my excursion to San Diego, I left. I had brought all my clothes with me in trash bags, but I left one article of clothing behind. It was this at a dry cleaner. It was this vintage Romanian military trench coat, and I went to go pick it up. You know, and they're like, "Oh, we can't find it. It's gone. It's just disappeared." And I'm like, "What, dude? Like, that trench coat was like a one of a kind, like, military surplus score.
Right.
And that trench coat was like invaluable to me, so to speak. And like, I had this big old argument with the owner, whose name was Angel, and um, and a week-long argument with the owner, and they ended up giving me a couple bucks for it. And basically, where was I going with this?
You said it's like another interesting part to the story. Trench coat. Going back to Louisiana.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot, well, maybe this is too much to. There's too many. It's a little bit too many freaking details to get into right now, man. But like the trench coat, basically, um, yeah, I killed my first deer in that trench coat,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had this like kind of obsession, fear kind of thing going on with dude, it's getting too into the weeds right now. But
Oh,
like,
it's all
yeah,
good, man.
yeah,
It's no
now I'm
worries.
going
But
off into
before you go,
crazy land.
it's all good. Before you go, what did you make of your friend seeing you in the field? Like, when you think about that afterwards, what do you like make of that?
Oh, I thought that was some kind of like my ghost, like astral projecting, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
kind of vibe. Like I've long been, I've been dealing with that depression that I was speaking of. I've been dealing with that for decades, and in recent, years, I've been thinking a lot about ghosts and stuff like that. Kind of been obsessed with ghosts and Dracula and that kind of stuff, and like, so I thought that was kind of just like my meditations, kind of like manifesting and kind of reflecting on my experience, my mind,
Right.
um,
Yeah, it's a crazy thing to happen for sure. Especially with
yeah.
your friend calling you like that and you wearing those clothes. But well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, man.
I've actually really quick. I've got a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, go for it.
That I'm just wondering about, and this is not to get too crazy or try to upset our caller here, but I'm just wondering if on the morality side, you're not holding this over your own head with what happened to these people on this highway, are you? Like, you're not blaming yourself for this incident.
uh no, I don't.
Okay.
I don't dwell on that. No, I mean, like,
Okay.
I may have like brief moments of honestly, like, yeah, I've had a long history of like misappropriating, like feeling guilty about things that have nothing to do with me,
Mhm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
so. But I've learned to like let those feelings, um, let them go, like, and not let them get get the better of me.
Good,
So,
yeah, because I've experienced things similar to this myself, and there were times when I would sit there and actually blame myself because I thought that I actually had brought that kind of energy into the world and created that on my own. But
Right.
you know, as a skeptic, non-religious person, like I always say, the fact of the matter is that just it's not possible. Like, you know, you couldn't have known that that was going to happen, you know, a lot of the time, and blaming yourself for it is not a healthy way to go forward. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah, or at least not harping, not letting that blame like metastasize into a cancer. You know, I mean, you're gonna blame yourself in brief moments, whether you can't, you know.
Yeah, the
But
best
I
thing is
just
just
kind
to
of
talk
like,
yourself out of it, like right away, and just no, 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 you know, like
Mm-hmm.
this. Just accept the reality of the fact that you had no control in that situation. And I mean, some people call it coincidence. You know, some people call it like be careful what you wish for. Realistically, the universe does what the universe does. You know, and even a broken clock is right twice a day. So
yeah,
you
exactly.
just got to keep on keeping on, brother. So
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
We're glad
Yeah, well,
you're here.
thanks for listening. That was interesting
yeah, thanks
for
for
me.
sharing, man.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
That was a good question. Great question to ask. And very
Yeah, you had
true.
me worried for a second. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
like I hope this guy's not holding this, you know, over his
Yeah.
own head because
No,
that's
that's good
just
you
that's
said that.
horrible. How could you know, one dude was going to get pissed off over a turn signal and kill
Right.
7 people,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah. No, very good that you asked that. Do we have some other callers?
Yes, there is a plenty.
Oh boy.
Callers aplenty.
Okay. Well, let's just go. Let's just do it.
And just keep on rolling.
Thank you all for calling in. We're going to try to get to everyone we can. We are here till midnight. Depending on how this goes, we might start taking calls around 11:50ish or so. You know, we're still figuring out the schedule, but we'll take everyone we can, and we're back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
End of week 3.
Objectively Thursday. End of week 3, and we'll have you all back tomorrow. But yeah, in the meantime, let's just do it.
All right. So I see a couple familiar faces in here. I want to go with one more new person I don't think we've talked to yet.
Awesome.
Just for the sake of variety here and getting some people in, and then we'll jump back on a couple of people if we have time that have called us before. So right now I want to go to Melanie Locke. Melanie, you're on Inverted World Live, and I do not see a mic. You might need to enable that. Let's see if we can get 1 to 3 for the day.
And for those who aren't too familiar with the show yet, this is audio only, so you can call in. I'm seeing some people saying like they'd like to call, but they're a little reluctant to call. But look, you guys listen to this show. I am not the greatest speaker. I listen back. I'm like, oh, I said 1,000 times in 5 minutes. I can't pronounce
I do the
names.
same damn thing. It's ridiculous.
So don't worry about it. If you got a story, let's hear it. Take your time, and it'll be awesome.
All right, Melanie, we're going to come back to you here. And I see Andrew back in here, and I believe Andrew was waiting on us yesterday and didn't get in, so I'm going to bring him in next.
Cool.
If this is the same Andrew, we'll see. Andrew, you're on Inverted World Live. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, dude?
Hey, were you in queue last night and we didn't get to you?
Yeah, that was me, yeah.
Fantastic.
Sick.
All right, welcome to the program.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Of course. What's going on?
So yeah, I got 2 quick stories. Well, one's quick and one's maybe a little bit longer, but one of them is it was kind of like a I guess maybe like a spaceship kind of sighting.
Okay.
kind of thing. Driving home from a concert, and my buddy was driving, and all of a sudden, just the car just felt vibrating. You know, it just sounded like it felt like there was some really loud vibrating sound outside. You know, and it was probably like, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock, so super dark out. And driving back from Boston, and there's a couple Air Force bases over there.
Mm.
And it was this big triangle thing in the sky, like the lights just were. It was just massive. It was massive just above the trees, and it was shaped like a triangle. Like the lights went kind of in a triangle shape, and you could feel the vibration, and you could hear it. So I rolled down the window, and unfortunately we were on the highway and we couldn't turn around. But but and my buddy really didn't believe me. He didn't see it, but I saw it, and I swear to God, that day was like and I started Googling too and looking online like triangle spacecraft and stuff, and it looked a lot like things that people post online about that. So that was like my one short story about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I had one other one, which is more of like a possession story, actually.
Okay.
Little longer story, and that was so I dated a girl kind of after high school, and her family was Baptist, and I just really got into it. I grew up Catholic, and I just felt like every time I felt convicted by the pastor, and that like I just over time going and studying and stuff, I almost felt like I should be a pastor. Like maybe that's my calling. That's what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And our relationship kind of failed after a few years. But I came to a point in my life where it was like, it's kind of all or nothing with Jesus and with, Christianity altogether. It's like you either commit your whole life to it or you're done. But I was in my 20s and I kind of chose nothing. And after a little while, I met another woman, and I had this, I just started to have these dreams, these like weird, crazy dreams, where I would get, I don't know, like almost sucked up like into the sky. And my body would just like twist and turn. And like, I just felt totally helpless, like totally just sucked up to the sky. The one I remember the most was there were people in a basement, and there was people in a basement. They were holding a big carpet, like a big oriental carpet, kind of thing. And if I stepped to one side, like the house would kind of level out, and if I stepped to the other side, the house would go the other way. But if I stepped too far, I'd get sucked up into that feeling again. And the thing is, the girl I was seeing at that time, she said I would like, when I would have those dreams too, I would be speaking like in what people call tongues, like where you just like ramble on,
Yeah.
I would even say things to myself like "Good night, AJ" in some weird voice, so and I had that for like 3 or 4 months. That was the one I remember the most, that one dream. But I got good at getting out of that dream. And I don't know, I just felt like a very spiritual connection to it all. Like, but I would just say things. I would sit up in my bed and say things. She would tell me, like, I don't even know what, she didn't run away. I was surprised at that, actually. But yeah, so that would happen a whole bunch, and I got good at kind of getting out of those dreams. But after a while, I kind of turned to Christ again, and those dreams went away. So those are my 2 stories.
Well, that's incredible. I love that. And I have a few questions. Let's go back to the UFO, the triangle thing. When you said first of all, what concert were you leaving?
We were leaving Snarky Puppy,
Snarky
actually.
Puppy.
Nice.
I don't know that one. Do you know Snarky Puppy?
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, they're like a jazz fusion group.
Oh, cool.
They're freaking awesome, dude.
Oh, wait. I have seen Snarky Puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're sick. They have like a bunch of live videos on YouTube.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they're very good. That's awesome. Okay. You said the car was vibrating. Great. Were the electronics affected at all in the car?
Say that one more time.
Were the electronics, like the radio or lights, affected in the car?
Boy, not that I remember. I don't think so. I remember like wanting to grab my cell phone because, I wanted to like video it, but it was big enough where we drove by it for long enough for me to realize that my phone was in the back seat or it was dead or something like that. And I was searching around for it and still seeing the thing, Right. So it was pretty big, and we were on the highway doing, 60 plus, whatever.
And
but no, I don't remember anything like blinking out or anything like that,
When you said you could hear it, what kind of sound was it making?
It was just like a deep vibrating, like ooh sound.
Hmm.
You know, we had the windows closed,
Right.
and I could feel, and we had music playing too, and I could just feel the vibration, and that was the first thing, you know, I remember like noticing about it. And then I just turned my head to the right, and there's just these lights, and I thought at first they were like, I don't know, telephone poles. Not, they wouldn't be telephone poles, but like almost like you'd see at like a football stadium or something, like these lights, but they weren't that bright. They was just like one, you know, and then there'd be another one and another one, another one. But they literally went in a triangle shape.
And I noticed you said you referenced that there are Air Force bases nearby. Do you think this was something extraterrestrial, or do you think it was something man-made?
You know, I don't know. Like, what crossed my mind was like maybe it's I don't know, some test aircraft or something. Like, you know, I think they do have things like that. I know they have planes that kind of land vertical and stuff, but
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was something like that. But I'm thinking like this is way too big to be, you know, and it was literally just sitting there, just above. You could see trees under it, you know. So it was just, I don't know, it's really weird to me, and I don't know exactly like if we were exactly at the Air Force Base, but yeah, I don't know.
No, it's interesting. And then back to the other story. When you say the part about being sucked up into the sky, was there like a dread associated with that feeling that you remember?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was like totally, like you just felt totally helpless, like I was being sucked up from my chest,
Right.
just drawn like to the sky.
And
And it was the same feeling every time, regardless of the dream.
mhm.
Again, I don't, for some reason, I had so many of them. And at that time, I wish I wrote them down because there was just so many. It happened for months. But that was the one I remember, the one like with the carpet. It was so vivid, where I would lean to one side and then lean to the other side, and the house it was almost like a 3-decker, or like even taller.
Right.
And it would start to go one way. And if I went the other way, I would straighten it out if I got to the center. But if it went the other way, and I would immediately start to get sucked up. And if I went too far one way, I'd just be completely gone. You know?
And then were you familiar with people speaking in tongues before that? And like, do you remember, I think you said you were saying one thing while you were speaking in tongues?
Yeah, like I woke up and I didn't wake up. I sat up in bed, and it's still crazy to me too, because the girl I was seeing, I'd only been seeing her for like, I don't know, maybe a month, you know, and I sat up in my sleep, and I said, you know, good night to myself, you know. It was just crazy, you know, and I was, and she said I was speaking all just gibberish, you know, just blah 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 blah, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like different Christian denominations have very different views on speaking in tongues and whether it's acceptable or not. I think the Seventh-day Adventists do it, but there's other non-denominational Christian, you know, churches that don't, you know, want that to happen in the church. It's a very interesting conversation. Not one that I know too much about, but I have seen people speak in tongues, and it is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it was, you know, it was similar to like those kinds of things you'd see, but I mean, I believe now that, you know, speaking in tongues is, you know, actual languages that, you know, people can interpret. That's what I believe about it. So I like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Were they just dreams where I was just thinking like, where maybe my life was in turmoil and I was just dreaming that out in some way or something? Because, you know, life changes, different girlfriend, like I had just gotten a different apartment, like all these different things were kind of going on.
Sure.
I think about that, but I do relate it to kind of like my Christian story, like as a part of like, you know, why I'm a Christian now too. Like I do think that at the very least it was some type of turning point in my life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like it. And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in. And I did briefly look up Snarky Puppy because I was trying to think of the song. My son is obsessed with Shofuken. Shofuken, you know that song? That's the one we watched a lot. That song is incredible. So for anyone out there, listen to.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Like they have a bunch of like really popular stuff, and then they have like a ton of other things.
Yeah, this is like more like a
that
jam.
Song necessarily, but
it's incredible. It's incredible. So for everyone listening, so far I've told you to go listen to Incubus's song "The Warmth," and now Snarky Puppy's Shofuken. which has like
Okay.
14 million views. It is amazing. So sick,
All right,
man.
awesome.
Thanks for reminding me, and have a great night.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thanks for talking.
Of
Appreciate it.
course.
Thanks for being here.
I knew that name sounded familiar. I was like, such a weird name. But they are awesome. Awesome. Let's do it. Let's do another caller if they're here.
There's more people than we are going to get to tonight.
Woo,
for sure.
so for
We
those
got a full
who
queue.
haven't heard, we will try to do our best to get to all of you tonight, but we will be back tomorrow, 10 o'clock at night, and we'll be here till midnight, taking as many as we can. But please call back tomorrow if we don't get to you. And we really, really appreciate you calling in. So let's do it.
Full disclosure, we got 10 people in queue.
Holy crap.
So we will not get to all of you tonight.
Holy
There's
crap.
absolutely no way. But
You guys don't understand. I used to have a hard time getting one caller on this show. So this is epic.
yeah, this is not.
This is epic. I love you guys. It's really awesome to hear from everyone. So thank you.
Yeah, while we got a second, MF Damien says these isosceles triangles stay mogging. I want to throw that out there. Thanks for your contribution, brother. And also like, subscribe, follow, share the show with everybody you know. We're going to keep rolling here for about another 35-ish minutes and try not to get crazy over our number because we've done that a few times last week because we just had crazy calls.
Yeah.
So
I know. We're chill. It's like, it's so hard. I want to hear everyone. I want to hear everything while you're here. But we also have a bit of a drive home and then early mornings. And then I'm dodging deer. Dude, the deer. I mean, it's unbelievable. We'll be back here tomorrow after another sleepless night, going to bed. We are wired after the show.
It's nuts.
So it's awesome. This show is better than caffeine.
I'm
for me,
literally
at least.
still drinking coffee. Like,
I mean, I'm still drinking coffee. I'm still going to drink coffee at 11:30 at night. But the stories, you guys, they keep me up. I'm thinking about them, and it's awesome. So yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. So I want to go to Tina next. Yeah, this program is slow today.
The rain has been weird. Obviously, the rain machines have been turned on over West Virginia. I don't know how it is in the other parts of the world.
We're getting killed out here.
The fake clouds are working overtime, and they're bizarre. These storms have been weird. The lightning storm yesterday that we drove home through was weird.
Tina, you're on the show. What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank God. I actually called on episode 58, and you guys couldn't hear me because there was a glitch.
Oh, no.
And then the show went down, so I'm blaming Surge. Anyway,
Oh, is that the power surge
I have
night?
a couple
Okay.
things to. I love you, Surge. Just whatever.
Yeah, we love Surge. It's all good.
He's
I have
fine.
a couple things to say. One is the reason why I called that night is I wanted to say my mother was a victim of Operation Sea Spray.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Holy
And
moly.
we didn't know until probably March of this year when we read an article about it.
Wow.
Holy moly. That happens a lot with people when they like put together some sort of illness and the time frame and location, and like years go by and they're like, wait a minute. Like that's what happened with is it Jimmy Olsen, the guy who was the MK Ultra dude who was shoved out of a building and passed away. His son years later, if I'm getting the name right, I think it was Olsen. He was like, wait a minute, MK Ultra was declassified. He was looking at locations, his father's strange death, and wow.
The whole Jason Bourne scenario, yeah.
Yo, that's crazy. So how did you figure that out, and what happened?
Well, when it was probably 1972, my mom was diagnosed with the infamous diagnosis of a disease called serratia. And we were told she had 6 months to live. They told us she got it. Seriously, this is what we were told. She got it off of a Buddha statue that somebody gave her. And I could never figure out what the hell that would mean. Sorry about that.
That's all good. Whoa.
And here, and so 6 months to live, she finally died. I was probably 9, and she probably died when I was 18. So it was, we're waiting for the other boot to drop or the sword of Damocles. And it's a very hard thing to grow up with when you have to deal with that.
I'm sure.
But yeah, and so March of this year, somebody posted an article about it. And I saw it, and I sent it to my sister, and my sister saw it, and she goes, oh my God, that's what happened to Mom. And we think it's something that my mother got from her sister, who lived in San Francisco, who used to send us things all the time. It's a miracle we didn't get it.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was just the craziest thing.
That
So yeah,
is
that's
insane. So I just real quick before you go on, for those who don't know, Operation Sea Spray is when our government sprayed a biological agent
weapon.
into San
Yeah.
Francisco to figure out how they could fight biowarfare. So they did biowarfare on our own citizens. I believe that was in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people got sick. I believe some people passed away right away, like in that early time frame. But a lot of people had this long illness afterwards.
Allegedly, no connections were ever made, quote unquote. But I mean, come on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And she lived to 54, so that's kind of a bummer that she died so soon. But
right. I'm sorry to hear that. That's just insane. Did you ever try to reach out to the government and get something
No,
anything?
I don't think they would give us anything.
I mean,
I don't
know. Those things are weird, and they definitely did it. Although Sea Spray was as far as I know, that one was a one-off, but I think they probably did others elsewhere. But something like Tuskegee syphilis experiments were carried out for generations, and those family members who are still alive are getting compensated today. It's a little different, but it is kind of similar, these covert operations with people causing illness or allowing illness and lying to the patients about not having illness and stuff. I'm spacing on another one that I know people. Well, there's the people in Guatemala that we actually gave syphilis to as well. I don't know if we're doing anything for them because it's Guatemala, and we also, overthrew their country in 1954. But I don't know. I would say try, but they probably just ignore you, honestly. But I'd say try anyway because it's ridiculous.
Okay. The second thing I wanted to say is in the chat, I dropped a link, and my username on there is Wiener Dogma, and it is there's a YouTuber who he speaks languages. He'll go to places and just speak ancient languages of people and stuff like that. He did bonobos and he did dolphins, and I put the link to that video in there.
Oh wow!
So you guys could check it out at your leisure.
Sweet.
Is that on YouTube or Rumble?
It is not on Rumble. I looked. I don't think he has a Rumble channel yet.
Okay. Oh no, I just meant what chat did you post it in?
Rumble.
Okay.
Cool. We'll look it up. That's great. Did you have anything? Did you have anything else you want to share?
Yes,
Cool.
I wanted to share a story of a residual haunting that I experienced.
Okay.
I live in Wyoming, and so I understand the whole deer problem, but we have deer, elk, and antelope to dodge. But I was living in this house in a little tiny town called Story. There's 800 people there. Actually, there's 1,000 now. They've grown. But I used to do online gaming, and I was late at night. I was defending my castle in the game, chatting with friends, and all of a sudden, through the front of the house, through the windows, this little battalion of soldiers walked through, and just kept walking and disappeared. And I thought. And I mentioned this to my friends. I said, "Oh my God, I just saw these things just come through the house." And the interesting thing about that particular town, there are 3 historic sites there. There is Fort Phil Kearny, which is an Indian Wars fort. And just across the road from there is where the Fetterman Massacre occurred. And to complete the triangle, which I was in the middle of, is the Wagon Box fight.
Can you tell us about those things briefly?
Pardon?
Could you tell us about those things briefly, what they are?
Residual hauntings?
No,
or
the Fetterman
what went through the house.
The Fetterman Massacre and the wagon.
Oh, Fetterman Massacre is there during the Indian Wars. Red Cloud and other Sioux tribes were living in the area. This is prior to Custer's Last Stand, or Battle of Little Bighorn. But the Fetterman Massacre is these guys went to chase the U.S. soldiers went to chase the Indians off the land.
Okay.
And got massacred.
And then
Wagon box
Yep.
wagon box fight is they didn't get massacred. I don't think anybody won that one. But if they did, it probably the U.S. lost because it was a tiny fort.
right. So there's
So, but
these historic places nearby with some crazy stuff that happened there, and then you were connecting
mhm.
that to these Italian soldiers you were saying walk through.
These U.S. soldiers just came. I mean, Indian war dressed came walking through the house, and it would happen on occasion, just like randomly. I never kept a diary. I wish I did, but they would just come walking through and go past like I wasn't even there. Like they were just walking from one place to the other, and they were see-through, but you could see exactly what they were.
Did they
It was
look at you?
crazy.
Did they look at you?
No, I didn't exist.
Hmm.
They just walked by me like I wasn't even there. So that's why residual haunting, it goes on in a place whether you're there or not. So it just happens.
Right.
So
They're
and
just
it
going
was
about
really crazy.
going about their routine.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's wild. That is
yeah.
wild.
So
Did it happen? How many times would you say that happened?
at least once a month. But I never knew when it was going to happen. Like I said, I didn't keep a diary of, oh, it's the 16th, here they go. No, it just happened. So, and it was pretty weird.
Yeah,
I
that is
mean,
weird.
I've lived through weird ghost stuff my whole life. My mom was kind of a freaky psychic person. We'd do things like, don't go to school today because you're staying home because there's going to be an earthquake. And I lived in California, and that of course happens. So that's just par for the course.
Right. Wow. Well, that's incredible. I appreciate you reaching out with all that stuff. The sea spray stuff is really wild too.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that and how it affected your family. I talk about sea spray all the time, and I just think it's so bizarre and heinous that
It
we
is
did that.
heinous. That is the word for it.
Yep.
Experimenting on the people without telling them.
It's disgusting. So yeah, my condolences for all that, and thank you for the phone call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
Man, it's crazy. She mentioned Custer really quick, and after he was, after they killed him at the Battle of Little Bighorn, that was Montana, right? They mutilated that guy's body, like they tore him to shreds, and they stuck arrows in every part of his body and put him in a shallow grave. And then the coyotes, I think it was coyotes, ripped him apart. And having grown up next to West Point, the cemetery, he's there. But it's like, you don't really know if it's really him, because like they had to go dig him up, and it was scattered everywhere, being torn apart by everything. But I always thought it was interesting that his grave is completely, in West Point, is completely covered in like Native American stuff. It's just like these people straight up murdered this dude, and they're like, we're gonna cover it now in all this cool Indian stuff. And it's an awesome tomb. It's a really cool tomb. But yeah, he's a weird dude. I don't think they liked him very much when he was a cadet out there. Kind of flamboyant, not in the flamboyant of 2025, but in the flamboyant of the older, yesteryear, with wearing big white gloves and using those pistols and stuff, which wasn't really what everyone else did. But yeah, crazy stories. Let's do another caller.
Yep.
Sea spray, man, that is nuts. We talk about that all the time. I mention it all the time on the show.
I actually can't. That's crazy.
Right?
That, like somebody like knows about that or knows.
I think there's probably some recourse at some point that people could do, because it was San Francisco, and it is very documented that they.
I was gonna say it was completely declassified, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. As much as we know, who knows what they haven't told us, because I think they do a lot of that stuff to this day in various ways. So they're out there in San Francisco right now testing out blocking the sun with dust. So
I can't wait for that.
There's also that.
Yep. No more sunburn.
No, yeah, but no more Earth or humanity.
Yeah, that too. That's fine.
Good, yeah.
Who needs Earth? We'll be all right. All right. Let's bring in Tiny.
Hello.
The joint is taking so long tonight.
It's the weather, man.
It might be.
I think it's disturbing things. The rain today was just like bizarre. the sun showers with the. Did you see the sun showers when it
Yeah.
was pouring?
I was on my way here. Yeah.
Violent rain. Yeah.
Tiny, you're on iDub Live. What's up?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
What up,
Welcome
man?
Not much. So, you guys want to talk about? Well, actually, I just called in because I felt like I was summoned. There was talk about MK Ultra and animals, and so I
heard the
figured
call.
I'd swing through. But do you guys want more Detrick stories, or do you guys want to hear about some ghost stories in the area?
What do you want to talk about? Because I honestly, both those sound really good to me.
I could care less. So I'll tell you what, we'll go with Detrick. So Detrick was actually well known for anthrax prior to the mailings of anthrax that are well known or well talked about.
Yep.
When the anthrax attacks were taking place through the U.S. mail.
Yep.
Back in, I don't actually remember the dates, so don't quote me on this. I want to say it was probably the 70s, maybe the 80s. They had an incidental release, allegedly, of anthrax in a building, and the U.S. Army just kind of sealed it up. I don't know if it still exists or not. I never personally was there, but it was always firehouse lore that it existed. And, I mean, I heard it from multiple independent sources.
That's not good.
Detrick also had a big fire, I believe it was in the 70s, at a building called the 8 Ball Building. Now, this isn't specific to anthrax, but with 8 Ball Building, the stories from the old salty firemen that I looked up to when I was just a young buck back in '96, like those dudes talked about coming out of the 8 Ball Building, and they were greeted by the military who stripped them naked, put them on a bus, transported them to a location, and told them what they saw and didn't see. And I know that it was a decision was made that firefighting efforts were going to stop because there was more of a concern of what would be released if the building didn't burn completely. Then it was the risk to the community was greater than just letting it burn completely to the ground.
Wow.
So Detrick is a nasty, nasty place, like I said before. And so I guess we're getting kind of close real quick. So I'll give you one little quick ghost story and an interesting tidbit about Burkittsville, Maryland. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Burkittsville, yeah. I have been through there. It's beautiful. It's haunted. It looks haunted.
Okay, so there's actually a ghost story that relates back to the Civil War. So if you're going up Main Street in Burkittsville, and I only suggest doing this at night, but if you're going up Main Street in Burkittsville, there's a certain point where if you stop your vehicle and put it in neutral, legend has it that Civil War soldiers push you to the top of the hill like they're pushing Civil War cannons.
That's incredible.
Burkittsville is also the where oh damn it, Blair Witch Project was allegedly based out of.
Right.
Really?
Yes, that's correct.
That. Interesting. It is a interesting little town. I think it's
beautiful. And a funny
weird
aside about that, the reason why it came out that Burkittsville was not where it was actually filmed. It was filmed around Baltimore, I think at White Marsh. But the reason why it came out, why they had to release it, was because Frederick County 911 was receiving phone calls that overwhelmed the 911 system because people were calling in because they wanted information about Burkittsville.
Oh, that's wild. That is wild. Well, that's great information. And that, man, I don't know. The anthrax thing is so crazy to me that they were doing that there and that all the anthrax. So for those who don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better, like anthrax is being sent around to people. I think this is early 2000s, right? This is post 9/11. I think around the time that they were trying to pass the Patriot Act, and there was like these anthrax envelopes with anthrax being sent around to politicians, like to intimidate them, and they trace it back to being from Fort Detrick, right?
Yes, that's correct. So as legend or story has it, Fort Detrick was the only known laboratory in possession of that specific strain of anthrax. The federal government attempted to pin it on a scientist who I believe at some point in time committed suicide.
Yes.
Go figure.
That's right.
But for an extended period of time, they were draining all the fire ponds up around Camp David and stuff like that. Looking allegedly like the FBI would go up there and they would drain the fire ponds, and they were supposedly looking for scientific equipment that he had dumped up there in the ponds. He lived in an apartment complex right at the entrance of 7th and right on 7th Street at Fort Detrick.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
So wait, you were working around that time, no?
I was a fireman at that time. I did not do anything specifically with any of that. The firehouse that I rode out of, we did have a swift water response team, but we didn't, to my knowledge, I don't think we did anything with the FBI. They brought in our own dive teams and stuff.
Right, right. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing those, as always.
Yeah, man.
It's great to hear from you. We appreciate it.
Yep. Absolutely, bro. You guys have a fabulous night, and I really enjoy the show, man. Keep it up, bro.
Thanks, man. It means
man.
a lot.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, guys. Dope.
Have a good night.
Later. Wow. Yeah, the Anthrax story is insane. They're like, oh, yeah, it just so happened to come from this place, this government facility. PsyOps, people.
Which is where they're burning the monkeys on Tuesdays, isn't it?
Of course it would be from that place. Of course it would be from that place. I mean, we've got burning monkeys in Maryland. We've got acid dosed dolphins in Florida. We've got spraying biowarfare on people in San Francisco. This is your tax dollars, people.
Hard at work.
This is what we pay for.
And don't forget, the Dolphins are getting old fashions.
How could you forget?
I'll never forget that.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't really want to bring it up, but I do find that story fascinating that she didn't get paid for it. She was just in love with dolphins. The acid was involved. This is the 60s. It's just so bizarre. For those who are listening now and have no idea what we're talking about, go listen to the first 20 minutes of this episode, and we'll walk you through
Dolphin pro bono.
Yeah, and how it connects to NASA
in more ways than one,
and aliens, and a weird tie-in to Charles Manson and Roman Polanski. But let's try to do another caller.
Yep, we got time for another one here. I want to go to. We got a couple more new people in here I've never seen before, so I want to go to one of them. I'll
say again, we'll be here tomorrow, 10 o'clock. I wish we could get to everyone tonight, but call back tomorrow. Brandon is so good at remembering who was here waiting, and we'll get you first thing tomorrow.
Yeah, by all means, I'll take names down again so we make sure that we get everybody we didn't get to tonight. If you're a reoccurring caller, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're just trying to get a couple more new people in here for the rotation, just to get some variety in. And like I said, we'll get to whoever we can left with the last 15 minutes we got left. So let's start with Myron. And don't forget, subscribe, follow, share the show, blow up the chat. Get that algo running. Man, the join is just ridiculous right now. I've never seen it this laggy. I wonder if it's just because we have so many people in here.
It's the CIA.
Myron, what's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can indeed. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up?
What's up,
I
man?
have a little paranormal story for you.
Sure.
Let's do it.
So, I'm going to keep it short because I know we run out of time. So, at this time, I'm living at home, and my room is in the basement. Finished basement's nice. So I come home from work, coming down steps. The light's at the top of the steps. I turn the light off because I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I like it pitch black and quiet. So I turn the light off. I go down to the bottom of the stairs where the dresser is. I start taking my stuff off, putting it on the dresser. And then right in front of me, a baseball-sized orb of light start twirling in front of me. And I was like, what? What is this? Okay. So I try to rationalize, where the light source is at down here. So I start checking where it could be possible light sources, and there's nothing that can explain it. I look over, the light's still doing this thing. I go over to the light, and I say to the light, I said, hey, listen, if you got something to say, just say it, because I don't know what all this is. And I mimic the shape with my hand. And then the light just disappeared. Right?
Whoa.
Thought it was weird. But what was even weirder than that was I wasn't afraid or anything. I never even turned the light back on. I just went to bed.
Whoa.
The next night, I come home. I turned the light off at the top of the steps. And on the way down, I was like, okay. So I get down to the bottom of the steps again, and I thought to myself, I said, it'd be weird if, and then all of a sudden the light came up again, and I said, come on, and then it disappeared, and I was like, all right. So fast forward 10 years later, I'm telling this story. We just came to visit my sister and her family, and I'm telling her this story about the old house we used to live in and this whole light orb situation. And they just like, wow, that's crazy or whatever. All of a sudden, I got really, really, really tired on her couch and just fell asleep. Now I'm back in the basement in my dream at the bottom of the step, and the light come up. And this time the light spoke, and it said, you do know what this means. And it was the infinity symbol that it was twirling in. And then the light shot into my forehead, and I woke up.
Hmm.
And that's my paranormal story.
That's wild. So what do you make of that? What do you think? What do you think's happening here?
No clue.
You said it was making the infinity symbol that last time?
It was an infinity shape that it was twirling in.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, damn, I do know it. I do know what that means. Okay.
That is
Right.
wild. And did it before that time, because it felt like it was interacting definitely with you at that time. Those other times, did you feel like it was, I mean, it seemed like it was listening as per your story, but did it like change at all as you spoke, like pulsate or anything?
No. Nothing that I can discern.
It's interesting that like you
constant
felt
motion.
comfortable.
And I can see like the light trails and all that behind it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It doesn't seem like it was, I mean, you didn't have any like nefarious feelings about it. You felt comfortable with it, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
comfortable, chilling. I just was like, okay.
And that was the last time you interacted with it in that dream?
Was the dream, yeah, that was it.
Interesting. Well, if you have a dream about it tonight, you should call back tomorrow.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be
well,
interesting.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in and sharing that.
Yep, no doubt.
Have a good night, dude. Later. Man, oh man. What do you make of all that?
I don't know. I don't hear a lot of orb stories like first person encounter orb stories.
Right.
You know, most of them are like it got picked up on a video or a camera or some, you know, somebody's seen it in like a black light or something, you know.
I'm turning my lights on after that happens. Like he's like, I didn't turn the lights back on.
I probably would have tried to fight it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I would have just swung at it probably.
Consistent with Brandon. He would chase spheres. He would chase Bigfoot after hitting it. And he would fight the orb. Showing up in his
I'm
face.
tracking this shit down. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's good.
I'm trying to find out what is going on.
Bring it into the
Like,
studio. We'll
this
figure
is
it
like, or at the very least, I'm pulling out my phone and I'm trying to get a picture of this damn thing so people don't think I'm out of my mind. You know, like I know what I see. You know, but I don't know.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know. Like I've had those few little orb stories where I saw the one with my friends I said yesterday. And that was weird, but I don't know. It could have been just a hallucination because back in those days, we were up to no good. You know, teenagers being crazy, and that the last caller talking about Burkittsville reminded me. We actually had a similar thing with cars going reverse up a hill if you put it in neutral, and like there were people telling us like it's just something with the land, you know, some science behind it. But there was a story associated with ours as well. Old soldiers pushing your car back up the hill. But there's like we were saying with Georgia, there's weird stuff. These old war areas are, you know, there's something going on there. And so much blood is spilled on just a plot of land. I think something happens. Something stays in there and haunts you. Where we are in West Virginia, you know, close to Maryland and Virginia, there is a lot of death that happened here during the Civil War. Places that, like, you know, I read stories about certain places that all these different little towns around West Virginia just were turned overnight into hospitals, and just the amount of limbs being sawed off. And one of the churches I go to, I sit next to the grave digger, and you know, he is constantly digging graves. I wrote a story about him last year. I think it was last year, for the County Highway, which is an awesome newspaper people should check out. You can only get it in newspaper form, and it's edited by Walter Kern. And I profiled this grave digger, and he would tell me stories about, someone wants a plot of land to be turned into these graves. So he's real good at digging. He can do it very fast. He's been doing it with a shovel since he was like 12. His dad was a grave digger, and his dad's dad was a grave digger. And a lot of times they're digging into the ground, and they come across a little mass grave of limbs from the Civil War, from all the bone saws hacking off people's arms and legs. Crazy stuff. And there are a lot of old buildings around towns all over this area that people still have like bloodstains on the wood from the hacking off of limbs. So good history here, people.
That's terrible.
Good history here.
It's like, just throw it out, man.
No, you got to keep it.
Burn it, do something.
It's good. It's good for the property value.
Oh my God.
I think that's what they do down
I mean,
here.
if anything, I would be like, all right, I'm going to go to Pawn Stars with this thing and be like, hey, man, I got this chair. He'd be like, best I can do is $50,
It just makes me think of home, because I did like where I grew up, and we had a lot of good history there, with West Point being there, all the stuff that happened there with the Revolution, and then the Civil War. All the Civil War generals were pumped out of West Point, on both sides of the war. So, coming down here, it felt like I was at home, because it was like all the things they studied up for war happened by me in some battles, but a lot of the really worst stuff happened like here, and then in Georgia, Maryland, a lot of crazy stuff. So I'm a history nerd though, so I dig it.
Jessica Rabbit says, this is filling my Art Bell void. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks, Jessica. We appreciate
love
that.
Art Bell. And if you missed our Friday the 13th episode, I mentioned that Art Bell happened to die on a Friday the 13th, which I think is just
maddening.
Really, it's beautiful and maddening. I feel like it's a good day for him to die. He was the best at this, and this show would be, obviously nothing without what he was doing with Coast to Coast. And I still go and listen to his old episodes. There's so many online, and he spent a lot of time. He did do like a political one too, which is cool. But yeah, he was the greatest. He was the greatest. Thank you for saying that.
Yep, and we got Cola Buds, who says, new people here, thumbs up.
Sick.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. This was a really fun episode. We'll be back tomorrow. Who knows what's going on tomorrow? Like, the news has been rapidly changing. I'm like, I could just spend every day for 2 hours talking about how they're going to psy-up us into World War III.
I was going to say, we're kind of back in that holding pattern that it felt like we were in during like COVID.
Yeah, dude,
where
does.
We were just kind of like, what the hell are we going to see tomorrow? And now with the talks of possible strikes happening, and we've seen some of those fleets have been moved into position, and we know we've got all this staff waiting around in DC, just buying up pizzas left and right, which means working long hours. So
it's crazy. It's just like fascinating, because we've been in war our whole life. And it's just like we're talking about starting a new war, but I just don't think it's ever ended. And I've been saying, we've been in war since our great grandparents. We're in this country. And before that,
it's nuts too, because the stuff that I'm seeing now, like just looking through X, let's throw this one up really quick. We got a few minutes. Iranian State TV says tonight a great surprise will occur, one that the world will remember for centuries.
Did it happen? Because that was yesterday.
No, and that's what I mean. Like it's like, are we looking at this media like freak you out, keep you locked in? It's
the doom economy, people.
But then here's a video down here of them burning an American flag.
Right, and then do we know that's even today?
No, we don't. That's the other thing. And it's like, we don't know that this was a meeting that took place today. We don't know, at least I don't.
And it could be. And it sucks that they say that stuff. But, like we were saying whenever it was Monday, I think, talking about, putting into context why they say that. I don't care for Iran. I don't care for any of these other countries. I only care about America. I pray for the innocent people all over the place, whether it's Gaza, Israel, Ukraine, Russia. I pray for those people. But, our government did also throw a coup in Iran, so they like really don't like us, because that eventually led to their revolution, which was insane, destabilized their nation. Not good stuff.
No, and I mean, even if this wasn't today, at the very least, this should be admitted into the record as like,
Yeah,
yo, these guys honestly don't like us.
they
So
hate us. We have a bad track record with them.
yeah.
A
And now
lot
this
of
guy's
places.
supposedly gone into hiding, but at the same time is saying, like, F you, US, we won't, bow to this bullying behavior.
This is why, like, we don't, maybe this is from today, maybe it's not. That thing you were just talking about, well, there's a big surprise happening, which was yesterday. And I think they're like 12 or so hours ahead of us, maybe more. So, I think it might be morning there almost. I could be wrong, but they're way ahead of us.
I know there were a bunch of ballistic missiles launched.
Okay.
Like, from what I had heard, it was like 300 or 400. I don't know how accurate that number was, but most of them were intercepted. And I also don't know if that was last night or not, but that was something else that I saw. So maybe that's what he was talking about. I don't know. I mean, we also heard from our president that he was going to address the nation yesterday, and then he never showed up. So, I mean,
And then, like, do we even know about what Kristen Noem's in the hospital for? Like, I haven't even seen
who
any
the
updates
hell
on
is
that.
doing the scheduling for these people?
We need better news for all of this, and I can't stress enough, remain suspicious of every piece of news that will confirm any bias you have about anything domestic and foreign, because they're fighting for your mind so they can have your sympathies, so they can sell you on their wars and anything else, like how it was during lockdowns, like how it was during the Patriot Act, you name it. That's the doom economy. We're stuck in that cycle of it, and it sucks. But we'll be back tomorrow to talk about who knows what. Brandon, let them know where to find you.
I am at Brando Inverted on Insta and X. Don't forget, like Shane said, keep asking questions, reconsider everything, and as always, do not forget to stay weird. Shane, get us out of here.
Yeah, apologies to everyone we didn't get to today. Please call back tomorrow. We'll get you on here. We want to hear your stories. Thank you all, everyone who's tuning in, everyone who called in. It's amazing. We're very grateful. You can find me online at all the places at Shane Cashman. You can see me making fun of Ted Cruz right now. I'm having a lot of fun with that. He revealed that he was a Zodiac killer today, just so people would stop talking about Tucker Carlson and his interview.
Wow.
You heard it here first. But we'll see you tomorrow. Later.